Commander Kethvar stood in the dim blue light of his ship's command center. His thick, scale fingers pressed hard against the metal console. The screens around him showed pictures and videos from a small planet far below. Earth, the humans called it. For 3 weeks now, his crew had been watching the strange creatures that lived there. The Vordak Empire ruled most of this part of the galaxy. Kethvar's people were born hunters. They had sharp teeth, strong claws, and thick armor-like skin. For thousands of years, they had been the strongest fighters in space. No other species could match them in battle. But now, watching these small, soft humans, Kethvar felt something new stirring in his chest. "Sir," said Velthon, his science officer. The younger Vortak's voice shook slightly. "The data from the human planet is strange." Kethvar turned his large head toward the main viewing screen. Images of humans flashed by one after another. He saw them in cities and forests, in their homes. At first, they looked weak. Their skin was thin and soft. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no sharp teeth. They seemed like prey animals. But then the screen showed something that made Kethvar's blood run cold. A human male named Jinho was walking with a group of small human children. Suddenly, 3 armed attackers appeared from an alley. Without thinking, Jinho threw himself between the weapons and the children. He had no armor, no protection, but he did not run. His eyes blazed with the same fierce light that Kethvar had seen in Vortak warriors protecting their young. "Impossible," whispered Drakon, the weapons officer. "Prey species do not behave this way." The screen changed again. Now it showed a human female called Nari. She was in a forest, carefully treating the wounds of injured animals. Her hands were gentle but sure. She worked for hours, never stopping, never giving up. When a large predator approached, she did not flee. Instead, she stood her ground, protecting the wounded creatures behind her. The wild animal, sensing something it did not understand, backed away. Kethvar watched in silence. Nari's eyes held the same intense focus that Vortak mothers showed when defending their nests. But there was something else there, too. Something that made Kethvar uncomfortable. "They fight like us," Velthon said quietly. "But they also love like us," Kethvar finished. His voice was a low rumble. More images played on the screen. Humans rescuing strangers from burning buildings. Humans sharing food with hungry people they had never met. Humans caring for old and sick members of their communities. Most disturbing of all, humans forming bonds with other species entirely. They had tamed wolves and made them into companions. They cared for cats, birds, and countless other creatures. Kethvar remembered his own childhood. Like all young Vortak, he had been taught that strength meant standing alone. Mercy was weakness. Caring for others outside your family was foolish. Yet secretly, as a child, he had once found a small injured creature in the forest near his home. Instead of killing it, he had hidden it and nursed it back to health. When it recovered, he had set it free. He never told anyone about this moment of softness. Now, watching the humans, he wondered if that moment had not been weakness at all. "Sir," Velthon said, "there is more." The screen showed human soldiers in battle. They fought with skill and courage that impressed even Kethvar. But when the fighting ended, they did something no Vortak warrior would do. They helped their wounded enemies. They shared water and medical supplies with those who had tried to kill them moments before. "This makes no sense," Drakon growled. "They spare defeated foes. They waste resources on the weak. How did such a species survive?" But Kethvar was beginning to understand. He studied the faces of the humans more carefully. In their eyes, he saw something that haunted him. It was the same thing he had seen in mirrors his whole life, but had never dared to name. The humans carried the same burden that every Vortak warrior knew, but never spoke about. They had the power to destroy, but they chose when to use it. They could kill, but they decided when to show mercy. They were predators who had learned to be protectors. "Commander," said his communications officer, "the Galactic Council wants our report on the human species. They are asking if humans pose a threat to galactic peace." Kethvar was quiet for a long moment. Around him, his crew waited for orders. On the screen, more images of humans played. Parents teaching children to be kind. Doctors saving lives. Teachers sharing knowledge. Soldiers laying down weapons to help refugees. These humans were dangerous, Kefvar realized, but not in the way the Council feared. They were dangerous because they showed what apex predators could become when they evolved beyond simple hunting and killing. They had found a way to be strong without being cruel. They protected not just their own kind, but anyone who needed help. For the first time in 40 years of military service, Commander Kefvar felt fear. Not fear of the humans themselves, but fear of what they represented. They were a mirror that showed what the Vorthak could have been if they had made different choices long ago. Continue monitoring, he ordered finally. I need to think. The observation deck of the Vorthak warship felt different now. Usually, this was where the crew came to feel powerful. The massive windows showed the stars and reminded them that they ruled this part of space. But today, 20 Vorthak warriors sat in uncomfortable silence. Their sharp claws tapped nervously against their armor. Their usually proud postures had slumped. For 5 days, they had watched the humans. What they saw made no sense. Commander Kefvar stood at the front of the room. His huge form cast a shadow over the viewing screens. Show them the battle footage from yesterday, he ordered. The screen flickered to life. It showed a human military base under attack. Enemy forces had surrounded a small group of human soldiers. The humans were outnumbered 5-1. Any normal species would surrender or flee. But these humans did neither. The screen focused on one soldier named Taemin. He was clearly the leader. Kefvar watched as Taemin made quick decisions under pressure. He moved his soldiers into better positions. He used the land around them like a weapon. He turned disadvantages into advantages. Most impressive of all, when his men looked scared, Taemin stepped forward to face the greatest danger himself. Look at his tactics, whispered Velthon. He fights exactly like we do. It was true. Every move Taemin made followed Vorthak military training. Protect the pack at all costs. Use controlled aggression. Strike hard and fast, but think before you act. Lead from the front, never from behind. The battle was fierce. Taemin's unit fought with the same focused fury that made Vorthak warriors famous across the galaxy. When one of his soldiers was wounded, Taemin carried him to safety while still fighting. When ammunition ran low, he shared his own supplies. When the enemy pressed closer, he roared a battle cry that would have made any Vorthak proud. The humans won their fight. The attackers retreated, leaving several wounded behind. Then something happened that made every Vorthak in the room lean forward in shock. Taemin walked over to the wounded enemy soldiers. His weapon was still smoking from the battle. His eyes still burned with fighting rage. But instead of finishing off his defeated foes, he knelt beside them. Gently, he began treating their wounds. This is not possible, muttered Sub-Commander Drakhan. His claws scraped against his metal chair, making harsh sounds. Apex predators do not help defeated enemies. It makes no tactical sense. But Kefvar was quiet. Deep in his memory, he remembered something from his own past. Once, during a border conflict with the Zenthri, he had found an enemy soldier bleeding in a crashed ship. The logical thing was to leave him to die. Instead, Kefvar had quickly treated the alien's wounds before his own troops arrived. He never told anyone about this moment. We do show mercy sometimes, Kefvar said slowly. We just pretend we do not. The room fell silent. Every warrior there knew what their commander meant. All of them had moments they kept secret. Times when they had chosen kindness over killing. Times when they had helped instead of harmed. The screen changed to show new footage. A human female named Unji stood in the middle of a crowded street. Two groups of humans were shouting at each other. They carried weapons. Violence was about to explode. Unji walked between the angry groups. She was not large or physically strong. She had no weapons or armor, but her eyes held something that made both sides stop and listen. She spoke calmly but firmly. Her voice cut through the shouting like a blade. Kefvar studied her face. Unji had the same alert awareness that every good Vorthak warrior possessed. She watched everything around her. She read body language and facial expressions. She knew exactly how dangerous the situation was. But instead of fighting or fleeing, she chose a third option. She talked. For 2 hours, Eun-ji stood between the hostile groups. She listened to their complaints. She asked questions. She helped them see each other as people instead of enemies. Slowly, the weapons were lowered. The shouting stopped. The two groups separated peacefully. She has predator instincts, observed Velthon, but she uses them to prevent violence instead of causing it. Young warrior Zaktor spoke up from the back of the room. Commander, look at this data about human relationships with other species. New images filled the screen. Humans living with wolves they called dogs. Humans caring for large cats they called tigers, but not to hunt them. Humans forming friendships with dolphins, elephants, and dozens of other creatures. They make pact bond with aliens, Zaktor continued. They adopt members from completely different species into their families. This was the most shocking discovery yet. Vorthak were taught that loyalty belonged only to other Vorthak. Trust was dangerous. Caring for outsiders was weakness that would get you killed. But these humans had somehow made friends with their planet's other predators. They had turned enemies into allies. They had built families that crossed species lines. Kethvar thought again about his childhood secret, the small creature he had saved and healed. After he set it free, it had stayed near his home for months. Sometimes it would bring him small gifts, shiny stones or unusual flowers. At the time, he thought this was just animal behavior. Now he wondered if it had been something more. Gratitude, friendship, love. Perhaps, Kethvar said quietly, strength and mercy are not opposites. Perhaps they are two parts of the same thing. The crew looked at their commander with new understanding. They were beginning to see that being an apex predator might mean more than just being able to destroy. It might mean being able to choose not to destroy. The harsh red sun of Keth Prime beat down on the rocky landscape. Dr. Jun Seo wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked his equipment one more time. His team of 5 humans had been sent here to study the planet's unusual mineral formations. At least, that was what they had been told. High above in the rocky cliffs, Commander Kethvar crouched behind a boulder. His advanced camouflage made him invisible to human eyes. The Galactic Council had arranged this whole situation. They wanted to see how humans would react when they met Vorthak for the first time. Would they run? Would they attack? Would they try to communicate? What none of the humans knew was that 3 young Vorthak were trapped in a cave system just 2 kilometers away. Their transport ship had crashed 3 days ago during a training mission. The adult pilots were dead. The juveniles were alone, scared, and running out of food and water. Junesio's team was walking through a narrow canyon when engineer So Young suddenly stopped. She held up her hand for silence, then pointed to her scanner. I'm getting strange readings, she said quietly. Life signs, multiple contacts. Team Medic Hygiene moved closer to look at the data. Whatever they are, they're not moving much, and their body temperatures are dropping. Jun Seo studied the scanner display. The life signs were coming from a cave entrance about 50 meters ahead. The readings showed the creatures were large, much larger than humans. They could be dangerous. We should call the base, suggested team geologist Minho. Let them know we found something. But So Young was already walking toward the cave. Look at these readings more carefully, she called back. They're juveniles, young ones, and they're in distress. Jun Seo caught up with her. The scanner data was clear now. 3 large life forms, but their biological markers suggested they were not fully grown. More importantly, their vital signs showed signs of dehydration and exhaustion. They're children, So Young said firmly, scared and alone. From his hiding place, Kethvar watched in amazement. Any normal species would have retreated at the first sign of unknown alien life. Even the bravest would call for military backup. But these humans were moving closer to potential danger because they thought someone needed help. The cave entrance was dark and narrow. Jun Seo took the lead, holding a bright light. Behind him, Hygiene carried her medical kit. So Young brought her engineering tools in case they needed to dig anyone out. The other 2 team members, linguist Dione and security specialist Teho, stayed at the entrance to watch for danger. As they moved deeper into the cave, they heard sounds, scratching noises, low, frightened whimpers, and then, suddenly, a sharp hiss that made all three humans freeze. 3 pairs of glowing yellow eyes stared at them from the darkness ahead. The young Vorthak had heard the approaching footsteps. Their training kicked in automatically. Even though they were only teenagers, they were still predators. They bared their developing fangs and spread their claws. Their natural armor, though not fully hardened, still made them look dangerous. Any prey species would have run screaming. Instead, Hygiene slowly raised her empty hands and took a step forward. "It's okay," she whispered. Her voice was calm and gentle, like a mother talking to frightened children. "We're not going to hurt you." The young Vorthak could not understand her words, but they could hear the tone. It was not the sound of a predator. It was not the sound of prey either. It was something else entirely. The smallest of the 3 Vorthak, barely past his first molting, tilted his head to one side. He looked directly into Hygiene's eyes. What he saw there made something deep in his brain respond. His aggressive posture began to relax. Kethvar, watching through his scope, felt his breath catch. He had never seen anything like this before. The young Vorthak was responding to the human female, as if she were family, as if she were a pack member, as if she were someone who could be trusted. Slowly, carefully, Hygiene knelt down. She was now at eye level with the smallest Vorthak. She continued talking in soft, reassuring tones. June Seo and So Young stayed back, but they kept their body language calm and non-threatening. The young Vorthak took a tentative step forward. Then another. His 2 companions watched nervously, but they did not try to stop him. Hygiene opened her medical kit and pulled out a water container. She took a small sip, then offered it to the young Vorthak. His eyes widened with understanding. Water, the thing they needed most. What happened next took 6 hours. The humans worked carefully and patiently to help the stranded aliens. So Young used her tools to clear fallen rocks that had blocked part of the cave. Jun Seo shared his emergency food rations, even though it meant his team would have less for themselves. Hygiene treated minor injuries and checked the young Vorthak for signs of serious harm. The 3 juveniles gradually relaxed completely. They allowed the humans to help them. They even began making soft, chirping sounds that seemed friendly. When the rescue was complete, the young Vorthak were healthy and strong again. As the humans prepared to leave the cave, something remarkable happened. All 3 young aliens looked directly at their rescuers. In their eyes was an expression that Kethvar had never seen a Vorthak show to an alien before. Gratitude, recognition, and something that looked almost like love. The smallest one took a step toward Hygiene and made a sound that was clearly meant as thanks. Then, in a gesture that shocked Kethvar to his core, the young Vorthak gently touched the human's hand with his clawed finger. For just a moment, 2 different species connected as if they were family. The meeting room on the Galactic Council Station was simple and cold. White walls, bright lights, and a plain metal table in the center. No decorations, no comfort, just a place for 2 very different species to meet for the first time. Commander Kethvar sat on one side of the table. His massive form filled the specially reinforced chair. His thick, scaled skin gleamed under the harsh lights. Across from him sat Dr. Jun Seo, looking small and fragile by comparison. Between them, a translation device hummed softly. For several minutes, neither spoke. They studied each other carefully, like 2 fighters trying to understand their opponent. Kethvar's yellow eyes examined every detail of the human's face. Jun Seo met his gaze steadily, showing no fear. Finally, Kethvar broke the silence. "Your young ones," he said slowly. The translator changed his deep, rumbling words into careful Korean. "When they found our children in the cave, they recognized something in us." Jun Seo nodded, "And we recognize something in them, that need to protect others, even when it puts yourself in danger. Tell me about your species." Kethvar said, "How did you become what you are?" Jun Seo was quiet for a moment, thinking. "We were not always good," he said finally. "For thousands of years, humans fought each other. We had terrible wars. We killed millions of our own kind over small differences. Land, resources, beliefs. Anything could start a war. Kethvar's secondary eyelids flickered, a sign of surprise among his people. You fought your own species. Many times. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times over. But slowly, we learned that fighting each other made us all weaker. We began to see that our strength came not from killing, but from working together. The Vorthak commander leaned back in his chair. My people have a similar history. We call it the Great Purges. For centuries, different Vorthak clans fought endless wars over territory. We were so busy killing each other that we almost went extinct. What changed? Jun Seo asked. We realized that our predator instincts were meant for something bigger than just hunting and fighting. We learned to channel that aggression into protecting weaker species instead of destroying them. Dr. Genesio's team members sat quietly along the wall, listening and taking notes. Team psychologist Yoon raised her hand slightly. In our culture, she said, we have stories about the warrior's path. The idea that true strength doesn't come from being able to destroy things. It comes from knowing when not to destroy them, when to show mercy instead of violence. Kethvar's eyes widened. We have the exact same concept, he said with excitement. We call it Kethvar. It means strong restraint, the ability to hold back your power when you could easily use it. I was named for this idea. Engineer. So Young leaned forward from her chair along the wall. This is amazing. Both our species evolved the same philosophy independently. We both learned to be protectors instead of just predators. But it was not easy, Kethvar admitted. Even now, some of my people struggle with these ideas. Our instincts tell us to dominate, to conquer. It takes constant effort to choose a different path. Jun Seo nodded in understanding. Humans have the same problem. We still have wars. We still hurt each other sometimes. The difference is that now we know it's wrong. We try to do better. Medic Hygiene spoke up from her position near the door. When I saw those young Vorthak in the cave, scared and hurt, I didn't see aliens. I saw children who needed help. It felt natural to help them. And when my young ones looked into your eyes, Kethvar replied, they saw something they recognized. Someone who would protect them, not hurt them. That is very rare in the galaxy. Linguist Yoon had been working with the translation device throughout the conversation. Commander, she said, I've been analyzing your language patterns. The way you speak about strength and protection. It's almost identical to our own concepts. Kethvar studied the small human female. You understand our language? I'm beginning to. And what I find interesting is that both our species use the same kinds of words to describe honor, duty, and responsibility. It's like we developed the same moral framework. Security Specialist Teho, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Maybe that's not a coincidence. Maybe any species that becomes truly advanced has to learn these lessons. Maybe you can't survive as a civilization unless you evolve beyond simple predator behavior. The room fell quiet as everyone considered this idea. Two species from different worlds, different evolutionary paths, different biologies, yet they had both arrived at the same conclusion. True strength meant protecting others, not destroying them. Jun Seo looked around the room at his team, then back at Kethvar. What if that's what the galaxy needs? Not predators who consume everything in their path, but predators who use their power to guard and protect. A partnership, Kethvar mused. Two apex predator species working together. We could be guardians for the younger, weaker civilizations. So Young smiled. Imagine what we could accomplish together. Your strength and our creativity. Your military experience and our scientific knowledge. For the first time since the meeting began, Kethvar allowed himself to relax slightly. His claws retracted fully, a sign of complete trust among his people. We are not just meeting as strangers, he said slowly. We are looking into a mirror. Each of us shows the other what we could become. Jun Seo extended his hand across the table. Then let's become it together. Kethvar looked down at the small, soft human hand. Then, very carefully, he reached out with one scale finger and gently touched it. Two apex predators, choosing trust over fear. The morning sun shone bright over New Harmony. the first colony built by humans and Vorthak working together. 6 months had passed since the two species first met, and the small settlement buzzed with activity that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. In the central playground, children of both species played games that their ancestors could never have imagined. A human boy named Minho crouched next to a young Vorthak called Esikatar. Between them sat a tiny, fluffy creature that looked like a cross between a rabbit and a bird. "You have to be very gentle," Minho explained patiently. "See how scared it is? Your claws are much stronger than my fingers." Esikatar looked down at his sharp, natural weapons with frustration. "But I want to pet it like you do. It looks so soft. Here, watch." Minho took Esikatar's large, scaled hand in his own small ones. Carefully, he guided just the tip of one claw to stroke the creature's fur. The little animal made a happy purring sound. "It likes me," Esikatar said with wonder. His yellow eyes lit up with joy. "Even though I'm a predator, it's not afraid." "That's because you're being kind," Minho replied. "It can tell you don't want to hurt it." Nearby, other children worked together on a project that looked like a fortress made of soft materials and blankets. But this wasn't for war games. Instead, they were building a safe house for all the small animals they had adopted as pets. Human children showed Vorthak youngsters how to make comfortable nests, while the young Vorthak taught the humans how to build strong defenses against larger predators. Commander Kethvar stood watching from a nearby platform. The sight of children from two apex predator species playing peacefully together still amazed him. Just 6 months ago, such a thing would have been impossible to imagine. Dr. Jun Essio approached, carrying a stack of reports in his arms. His face showed excitement mixed with tiredness. The Zentari delegation sent another message. He said, "They want our protection during their survey mission to the Outer Rim. Apparently, news about our partnership is spreading across the galaxy. Apex predators as guardians instead of conquerors." Kethvar mused. "I wonder what our ancestors would think." "Probably confused at first," Junesio replied with a smile. "But I think they will be proud too. Look around you." They both looked across the colony. In the medical center, human medic hygiene worked side by side with Vorthak healer Sadek. They had developed new techniques by combining human medical knowledge with Vorthak biology expertise. Their patients came from 6 different species now, all seeking the care that the human Vorthak team could provide. In the workshops, engineer So Young emerged with a group of apprentices that included both humans and young Vorthak. They carried a device that looked like a weapon, but Kethvar knew better. It was their latest offensive invention, a tool designed not to kill attackers, but to safely stop them and help them understand why violence was unnecessary. "The non-lethal containment system is ready for testing," So Young announced proudly. Her mixed-species team beamed with accomplishment. "It can stop any aggressive creature without causing permanent harm." As the afternoon wore on, children from both species gathered in the education center. But these were not ordinary school lessons. Under the careful guidance of both human and Vorthak teachers, the young ones learned something much more important. They learned to control their predator instincts. Human children practiced recognizing when their anger was becoming dangerous. They learned breathing techniques and mental exercises to stay calm under pressure. Meanwhile, young Vorthak practiced restraining their natural aggression. They learned to fight only when absolutely necessary, and how to use minimal force to protect others. "Remember," said teacher Yunji to a mixed group of students, "being strong doesn't mean hurting others. It means knowing when not to hurt them." The young Vorthak named Theclon raised his clawed hand. "But what if someone is really bad? What if they want to hurt innocent people?" "Then we stop them," replied Vorthak instructor Velkov. "But we stop them in a way that gives them a chance to become better. We don't destroy them unless there is absolutely no other choice." A human girl named Una nodded thoughtfully. "My grandmother always said that the strongest warriors are the ones who win without fighting." As the twin moons rose over New Harmony, the colony settled into peaceful evening routines. Families of both species shared meals together. Children played quiet games before bedtime. Adults worked on projects that would benefit the whole community. Commander Ketvar and Dr. Junesio stood together on the observation deck of the main building. Below them, the colony slept safely under protection of two species who had learned to be guardians instead of destroyers. 6 months ago, we were strangers watching each other from a distance. Junesio said quietly, "Now look at us. Our children play together. Our people work together. We become something new. The galaxy's apex predators," Ketvar replied, learning to see ourselves clearly in each other's eyes. For a moment, they watched a human parent tucking a young Vorthak into bed alongside human children, reading them a bedtime story that spoke of heroes who protected others instead of conquering them. "We chose to become something better than what evolution made us," Ketvar continued, his claws retracted fully, "the ultimate sign of trust among his people. We chose to be defined not by the fear we could create, but by the love we decided to protect." Below them, New Harmony slept in peace, watched over by those who had learned that true strength came not from the power to destroy, but from the wisdom to preserve and protect. The galaxy's most dangerous predators had become its most devoted guardians.